state and local tax write-off up to $10,000, married or single. So that was a huge hit for a lot of people. A lot of people had, anywhere from $20,000 to $80,000 in write-offs that disappeared.
Wow.
But the brackets went down, right?
Okay,
But you had more taxable income. So did your tax actually go down? Welcome to Wealth Creator Radio, where we help people overcome the uncertainty of having enough retirement income. I'm your host, Eric Heckman, a certified financial planner with over 30 years of experience. We want you to enjoy life and not have to wonder where your money will come from and how long it'll last. My mission is to show you how to develop a personalized income plan so you can retire more and have worry less wealth. Here at Wealth Creator Radio, we cut through the noise and get straight to what matters. We understand that the world of retirement planning can be filled with confusing products, ever-changing tax laws, and volatile markets. That's why we're here to help successful people like you navigate the uncertainty and create a blueprint for a thriving, work-optional life.
According to this saying, nothing is certain except death and taxes. And that tax impact is something you just can't escape, even in retirement. But there are some steps that you can take to help reduce the impact of taxes on your retirement savings. And that is why I am here with Eric Heckman today, because he's going to help us with that on Wealth Creator Radio. Here's the number you need for our show today, 800-454-1184. Use that number as you call for a complimentary appointment, 800-454-1184. Now, if you text the word toolbox to that number, not only can you get the appointment, but you can also get the toolbox, which includes Eric's book, Worry Less Wealth, and then other educational materials that will apply to your retirement. So text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. And remember, you can find us online anytime at wealthcreatorradio.com. Eric, hello to you.
Hey, Luann. Yeah, it's, I don't know if it's good to talk about taxes, but it is critical to talk about taxes. Nobody likes them, so they may not be the most favorite of topics, but paying less in taxes, I think actually people do like to hear about that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's why it's good if you can figure out how to pay less in taxes legally, and that's what we're talking about today. And yeah, the only thing that stays the same is change. We've heard that, right? Nothing stays the same. There's always change. Over the years, we've seen a lot of changes in the ways that we're taxed, right?
Well, yeah. So, of course, back in 1913, there was this little thing that they said, only a few people would be affected by. Called the income tax.
Yeah.
Supposed to only hit the wealthier people, but then of course we have a world war and boom, rates shoot up.
Yep.
And of course now everybody pays it. And there's also probably a lot of smoke and mirrors, I think, nowadays has been done with taxes. The first one was kind of in Reagan's time frame when he lowered income tax rates, but you used to be able to write off credit cards, car loans, all sorts of things. You could write off almost everything, it seemed like. And so he took away deductions and lowered the brackets. Well, if you have less write-offs, and yes, your bracket's smaller, but did you end up paying less tax? And
wow.
and it's kind of very similar to what happened with the Trump tax laws. We saw the huge limit of state and local tax write-off up to $10,000, married or single. So that was a huge hit for a lot of people. A lot of people had anywhere from $20,000 to $80,000 in write-offs that disappeared.
Wow.
But the brackets went down, right?
Okay,
But you had more taxable income. So did your tax actually go down? A lot of it's how are you getting taxed, knowing really about where the tax is, getting hit by. And, one of the big things, of course, is they always said you're going to retire in a lower tax bracket. Yet they keep spending money like crazy and not paying off the debt and having more record deficits and then record debts. So yeah, don't ever fall prey, I should say, to that you're going to retire in a lower bracket, because lots of times people are often in retirement almost paying more in tax because whatever write-offs they did have are gone.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like how you said a lot of smoke and mirrors, That's so interesting. You really do have to look at the whole situation. Now, what are some things we need to know about regarding how different sources of income are taxed in retirement? I feel like we don't all know that.
Yeah, so probably one of the sneakier ones was Social Security taxation. So that first started in the 80s. And what happened there is they said, oh, we're only going to tax the wealthy people. Well, the wealthy people were at the time, I think, making 34,000.
Yeah.
Now in the 80s, 80s, you could buy a pretty nice house for $100,000, right?
That's true, yeah.
It is all a little relative there. In the 90s, they said, okay, well, we're going to tax. Yeah, the first one was 50%, but now we're going to add another one where we'll tax up to 85%. But, again, we're only going to have it, 34 to 44,000 now. But the sneaky part on that for both of those laws is neither one ever indexed to inflation. So now pretty much most everybody's paying tax on their Social Security, at least at the federal level, but only 85% of it's taxable. So there's a tiny bit that's tax free. But then of course, if you have a bunch of money in 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, all these things, those are 100% taxable. You have no, basis or anything. Doesn't matter how much you put in because you never paid tax on that money going in. Right. So now you got to pay tax on the full balance coming out. And, and those can be shockingly high in terms of how much money you have to end up paying. And, and then of course you have other things like, just regular investment accounts. Well, those ones you have basis where you know how much you put in, you have capital gains. So, I like to kind of think of these as different buckets, right? So you've got like this taxable bucket, that'd be the stuff like your savings account or brokerage account. Those are fairly tax efficient somewhat, but, you only pay taxes on the gains or interest. And then you have that tax deferred bucket. That's the really nasty one with all the 401k and IRA money. That's all taxable. And then hopefully you have some in tax free, which is Roth or life insurance, cash values accessed a certain way, and some different types of bonds sometimes. But, so what you want to do is think about those various buckets. And then, of course, you have Social Security coming in. That's mostly federal taxable and typically not state taxable. So, all those things can create your own tax liability. You actually can invent your own tax bracket and such, just depending on which monies you take and how much from each bucket. And that's something you don't do when you're working, right? You just get your W-2 and you figure out your taxes, and it's pretty simple. So, so the big part that people have to really realize is, there's kind of some minefields really when you start withdrawing that money and take that money out. So you have to plan this way ahead. So with our clients, what we do is usually either in December or January, we're talking to them about how are we going to get that money for that next year? What makes the most sense? Especially when you first retire, sometimes maybe you had some payouts and other stuff, and you don't need to cash in a bunch of stuff. Well, maybe you have some super low tax liability that year. Well, good year to do a Roth conversion and such. So there's a lot of planning that goes. It's a lot more complicated than you think. That's one comment I always get from so many people that say is like, I never would have thought it's so complicated to be retired.
Gosh. Yeah.
And they thought it'd be easier, but no, it's actually almost tougher. So. At least financially, to figure all this stuff out. So that's why you need a plan. That's why we're here for people. So, again, like you mentioned already, we've set up some great resources in our digital toolbox. Are you paying too much in taxes in retirement? Good thing to read. Social Security decision. Will your money last as long as you do? Obviously, like you mentioned, my book, Worry Less Wealth. And, you can also set up a time to talk with me, Eric Heckman, for no cost, no obligation. We just go over what you're worried about and kind of help you with any concerns you have. So very easy to get all this access to the toolbox. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And again, this is Wealth Creator Radio. So happy you joined us today with Eric Heckman. Eric, how do you talk to people who come in are concerned about taxes impacting their retirement in the future? Because it's hard to know. You don't have a crystal ball. Yeah, no, it's definitely something that people need to be planning way out. I mean, for my own sons that are, in their 20s, just starting out, only do Roth. Don't ever do pre-tax stuff. And
really that advice goes for anybody under 50, and even in your 50s, it might be making sense to convert. And, but really the only way I know how to do it is having an income plan. So when you have an income plan, it tells you, what's happening between now and whenever you retire. And then once you retire and switch to having to live off that income, how's that money coming? How's it taxed? And my only concern is, how do I pay the least tax over my client's lifetime, not 1 year? So a lot of people get hung up on, they'll ask their accountant, how do I save taxes this year? Well, that might be the worst answer in the world, but because you asked that question, he might answer and tell you, but it might actually cause you more taxes over your lifetime. So really that's what you want to focus on, is how do you lower your overall lifetime taxes? And that's what we do here at Heckman Financial. And that's one of the things you can get access to. Again, is if you want to get access to the toolbox, or if you want to set up a time, it's all in there. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com. Happy holidays and Happy New Year from all of us at Heckman Financial. We hope you enjoy the season and look forward to talking with you next year.
Hi, I'm Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. He is president of Heckman Financial. So happy to have you along with us today. There's a song that Rod Stewart wrote, and one line in it, well, the name of the song is Ooh La La. I don't remember it. Do you remember that, Eric? Ooh La La? Rod Stewart?
Yeah.
You do?
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, the line in it says, I wish I knew what I know now when I was younger. And how many times have we all wished that? I'm like, oh man, wish I knew then what I know now. And then there's a freelance copywriter, and she recently wrote things that she would tell her 20-year-old self. So I thought it would be kind of fun to ask you, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self, Eric?
Yeah, well, we all wish we had done stuff differently, right?
Exactly.
So, I think when you're younger, the kind of big thing is, of course, one is just avoiding debt, avoiding the temptation of everybody, just, click, tap, 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 right? You don't have to insert your card anymore. And, so that's one hazardous thing, is trying to keep up with the Joneses or buying all the latest and greatest. And most of that stuff you end up throwing away anyways after a while, right? So, so that'd be one thing, just watch how much you're spending. But, probably more importantly, just really funding some money in Roth, be pre-tax, but also have enough money in savings. And then if you want to move up to the next level, whatever that is, if it's a bigger apartment or trying to buy a place or something, save up ahead of time, have that 3 to 6 months of savings for that debt load, or for that, that spending level that you have now. So if you're spending, say it's $3,000 a month now, but you want to be spending $5,000 a month. Well, okay, let's make sure you have that money saved up. Let's see if you have 30,000 sitting in the bank, then you're now have the savings for somebody who's spending $5,000 a month, right? So then go up to the next level. But most people, what they do is they get the debt, and then they don't have the money to do the savings, and then they wonder why they never have the money. And then they start figuring out when they're 40 or 50, and it's a lot late then, right? So then that's when we start talking about, I wish I'd done that when I was 20, right? So I think that's one of the critical things is really having that savings first, and planning ahead a little bit better versus just going out and doing all the stuff you want to do. Yeah,
that's the bad thing. You start your career and you have the, finally have money, and then you start spending, and then you get in debt. That was my husband and I. What you just said, that was my husband and I. And then we're like, okay, here we go. We got to get serious, coming up here, getting closer to retirement. So if you look back at your life, so in your 20s, you're laying the groundwork really, truly for your, financial future. Like I just said, my husband and I. In our show, we talk about the stages of retirement, but financial planners say there are 5 financial stages of life. So we're going to kind of go over those right now. Your clients, are around probably my age or older. So they probably have, maybe kids or grandkids in this first stage of life. So talk about that. And we want to talk about paying forward information to the next generation to help them do better.
Yeah, well, like I said, big thing would be savings and debt. So buy the stuff that you can afford, not the stuff that you want. Right.
Yeah.
So, which is tough to do. And so, yeah, so start building up that savings, have that, that ideally that 6 months of expenses saved up. Then you can go out and buy some of that other stuff. But also along the way, you got to be at least funding that match, getting up to, if you're working at a job, at least get that match. And nowadays, of course, a lot of people are just doing the gig economy type stuff, right? They might have, smaller, littler jobs type of things that add up to a full-time job. And you may not have those matches. Well, you still need to be putting money away. So that's a big one is, try to at least be putting at least 5% away long term when you're in your 20s, because that money will grow to be huge, down the road. But I think that's kind of the debt and the savings would be the first ones. And, then once you get past that, then you can start doing a little bit more sophisticated planning, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay. So after that early career, then, you start having kids and, building your career, right? Getting into the positions that you want. So let's talk about those financial steps that are happening.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing, especially in the Bay Area, a lot of people, they want to get that ideal house. Well, that's sometimes a really bad way to go. I used to play Monopoly a lot as a kid, and still undefeated. And I almost don't want to play anymore because I don't want to lose. But every time we played Monopoly, I would always buy the cheapest houses. I would buy all the cheapest properties, because you could very easily get houses put on them and hotels and all that. And you almost always end up winning. And whoever wants to save up for the expensive ones can never do much with them.
Interesting.
And so same thing with, when you're first starting out, just get into some sort of real estate. And amazingly, after 5 or 10 years, you're going to have some equity in there. Then you'll be able to move up to that next house. Mm-hmm. But if you wait to save up a little bit more, guess what happens to that price of the house? It goes up a lot more, a lot more. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes just getting into something is worth it. So that'd be one thing. Like I said, having that savings, building up that saving, that retirement, this is where you would need to start probably plowing a little bit more money away too. Is once you do have that house, then okay, how do we ramp up these savings? How do we, start building that money up more? Because as you are starting to age more, you want that money to be growing over time, and the more time you have, the easier it is for that money to grow. So I think it's one of the big critical things. Okay.
Now, do you work with people in these first two stages very often in this part of financial life that we're talking about?
No, not too much. Okay. We do for a lot of our adult children of our clients. So, so we've met with a lot of them, and they'll come in and, ask some questions. And, sometimes, we do work with some younger people. I mean, I've also had some younger people that want to retire at 50 or 55. And so to me, they're like somebody who's trying to retire at 65, right? So, so we will work with those. But no, I mean, I think people in these earlier stages, it's more about just getting the basics, right? Making sure you've got all insurance stuff covered, life insurance, all that type of stuff, that you've got that money being put away, trying to save that 15% between long-term, short-term, and medium-term money. Those are the big keys. And so, that's something where there's a lot of online stuff. You could also, there's a lot of other financial advisors that you look at, and that's something we refer people to, even if they need that help too.
Yeah. So there are a lot of really good people that can help, savers with their money, and you can grow your money and all that with those type of advisors. But you mostly work with people who are closer to retirement.
Yeah, exactly. So for us, we're working with people that are doing that shift, because that shift can be hazardous, right? So there's a lot of mess ups that you can do in your 20s and 30s and overcome them in your 40s and 50s. It's not as easy, but it's doable. If you mess up something in your 60s, it's really hard to fix it in your 80s. So you get one retirement, and so that's why you really want to have good, solid advice when we're talking about that payout phase, when you're starting to withdraw the money, because it's also really freaky for people. It's so funny. I mean, I had this couple in here, Alantina, and they were doing that shift. He worked for PG&E, and he's doing that shift into that retirement. And I was telling him that a lot of people just have emotional issues, literally taking that money back out. And I think he heard me the first time, but he didn't listen to me. And then, the next time we met, he's like, "Wow, you are so right." You told me this thing about, people freak out, and, he repeated what I said, which was pretty funny. And, and it is something that I think a lot of people just don't quite get. And then there's just so many decisions too. It's a lot more complicated than people think.
Right. Now, would you say, is it ever too early to start thinking about retirement?
Oh my gosh, no. Yeah. I mean, that's, going back to, what you, would have done when you're 20. I mean, just, if you look at the compounding, well, the rule 72 basically says if money doubles, if you earn 7%, it doubles basically every 10 years. And so if you think about that in your 20s, if you just put in 1,000, that 1,000 could be then 2, then 4, then 8, and 16,000. Well, what if you did that multiple times, right? I mean, all of a sudden you've got all this money there when you're older versus if you wait to start when you're 40. Well, you miss 2 of those doublings, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty brutal to try to wait that long. I mean, you're not going to have to get super accurate, right? This is just, are you somewhat in the general direction, right? It's like, am I if you're trying to drive across the country, am I at least heading east? You may not be on the right road, but at least you're in the right direction generally, correct? So that's really what you're talking about when you're younger. And so one of the things we have set up is a lot of great tools in our digital toolbox. And, these are things like, will your money last as long as you do? Are you paying too much in taxes in retirement? Social Security decision, even my book, Worry Less Wealth, which is, really from people 50s and on. And that's all sitting there free of charge for you. Quick, easy reads and downloads. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. There's a particular time of life this phrase couldn't be more appropriate. How can you know you'll live the retirement you've always imagined? After all, life can be so unpredictable. You've worked hard and saved. Watch your accounts go up and down with the market. Your advisor says, don't worry, you'll be fine. But you still don't feel confident. Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial has a checklist to help you find out if you're on the right track for retirement. If you can check all the boxes with confidence, you may be ready for retirement. If not, Eric can help you address any potential costly mistakes. To get Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial's complimentary checklist, call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. Call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. It's no surprise that what's right for your money now probably won't be the case in about 10, 20 years from now. There are 5 main stages to your financial life. Okay, that's what we're talking about today. And this stage that we're getting to, the 3rd stage, is really, really important. These are your pre-retirement years. And Eric, this is who you work with. It's an exciting time for these people. Their house is probably paid off. Hopefully their kids are off the payroll. And you are in your peak earning years. But it's also a time of life when you cannot afford to ruin it with the wrong financial moves, right?
No, exactly. And around here, probably in Silicon Valley, your house probably isn't really paid off. Every once in a while, you run into those people who were able to do that, but at least hopefully you're not refinancing and taking more cash out or anything like that. And then I do agree, yes. So hopefully the kids are off the payroll. It's always one of my first questions: is the bank of mom and dad closed, or is it still operating? And often it's still operating. So yeah, you do have to watch that. Because I had one couple that I think she was spending about $3,000 or $4,000 a month on their adult children.
No,
and they're trying to retire, and so that was a big bone of contention between the two of them. Was we got cut them off a little bit, this would be when you're starting to have to like position the money in the right spots, right? Because of when you're having the money grow, you just put it in there. Hopefully it works. Those ups and downs in the market don't really matter, right? Because as long as they just keep putting money in, it'll come back and all that type of stuff. Well, that works until you have to start withdrawing it, right? So this is where you have to start paying attention to where those placements are. So that's when you start having to go, oh, well, do I have a lot of foundational money, stuff that's not in the market? Because your 401k forces you to have 100% of your money in the market, which is stocks and bonds. What we want to have is have some money that's guaranteed, ideally that's earning some good interest, maybe 5 to 9% or something like that. But something that's earning you some good money that can't go away, because on those bad years, you can go take that money from there. Good years you take from the market. Mm-hmm. Also, in between there, we usually want to have some steady income stuff. That steady income money is really stuff that investments that are less volatile, that pay you some really good dividends. So again, they give you cash flow. Now, when you're still not retired, you don't necessarily need that cash flow, but it can build up in your portfolio and take advantage of certain times. But yeah, that's what you need to start doing, is shifting the money, not 100%. It's not like you're doing you passed it, you got to do a U-turn, right? Recalculating. No, we're not doing that. We're just talking about, let's start shifting and start, getting over there, getting in that general direction and making those changes. Because also it's one of those things where you don't want to do it all at once, right? Because who knows what the economics of that time frame will be when you make that decision.
Right. And that's like my husband and I right now. I mean, I'm turning 65 this year. He's right behind me. We're only 8 months apart, but I'm a little bit older. And so that's what we are doing. We're trying to shift, money into our Roth so that we can reduce those taxes in the future. So that's where we are right now. And just thinking about, how we're going to be able to maintain the current lifestyle that we have. What about thinking about plans for healthcare? Is this also the same time you should be doing this time that you should be doing that?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is really a big time to be planning for, the 5 areas that we always talk about when we talk about the blueprint to worry less wealth. And so first is having an income plan, right? Making sure that you've got that money that is going to be able to pay out. Where's it going to come from, right? Will it last long enough? Are you, mostly on track, or do you have to move those dates out farther, right? So that'd be one of the things. And obviously investments, how you're investing it, which we kind of just talked about, is making some of those changes. You brought up Roth, how can we lower taxes? What tax moves should we be making? Healthcare is a big one, because if you're pre-65, it's going to be probably $1,000 per person for medical. And once you turn 65, it's probably 300 or 400. So big difference between those two.
Yeah.
And, when are you going to retire, pre or post 65? That's a big one. And then, then obviously legacy, who's getting your stuff? Are your assets titled in the right way? So, that's one of the things that you really want to be looking at, is all 5 of those areas, and start having a plan, for those. Because it is really critical that you do have that plan. And, that's one of the things that we do here at Heckman Financial is, we actually go through that whole process. First, we have just a quick 30-minute phone call where we just talk to people about what their worries are, what their concerns. And then if it makes sense, we'll actually go through that whole blueprint. We'll go through all those 5 areas, tell you where you're headed, free of charge right now. We've been waiving that planning fee. And so that's one of the things that we can do, is actually help you go see where you're going to be. And then we'll tell you what's working, what's not, and what things you might want to change. Again, this is just critical information to be getting, especially if you're in that pre-retirement zone and that phase of life. So all you have to do is, if you want to set up a quick time to talk with me, Eric Heckman, text the word VISIT to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word VISIT, 800-454-1184, or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And you are listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. He and his team at Heckman Financial work with this stage that we're talking about, pre-retirees and then in retirement. And, Eric will say their system is working very well. They've been helping retirees just like you, and Eric is reaching out to you. That's why we do this show every weekend. So getting that financial checkup would be a good time in pre-retirement years to make sure you're on track. And then you already kind of talked a little bit about making that transition from saving for retirement to now you're pulling out money, but you also have to generate income in retirement. So tell us a little bit about that, Eric.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you kind of visualize it, which is always fun on the radio, right?
Yeah.
So, but think about different buckets, right? So you've got your tax deferred bucket, which unfortunately for a lot of people is their biggest bucket. This is your 401ks, IRAs, and all that stuff. This is stuff that you haven't paid tax on, so you got that bucket has a lot of little gotchas, right? Depending on how much you take from there. You got your taxable bucket, which might be your savings and stock accounts, brokerage accounts. That's got a lot less tax ramifications. And then you got the tax-free bucket, which unfortunately is usually the smaller one. That's the Roth IRAs and life insurance and other things that are tax-free. What we want to do is figure out how much should we be taking from each one of those, and then you can actually decide what your tax bracket will be, which seems weird. But when you're working, you just get your W-2 and do your tax return, and it is what it is.
That's that, yeah.
Yeah. So, but in retirement, depending on which bucket and how much you took from which one, that's going to dictate a lot of stuff about your taxes. If you take too much money out of your tax deferred bucket, your IRAs and 401ks, that might cause your Social Security bucket to get taxed heavier. That's things that people don't tell you about, right? That's the stuff that your tax advisor won't mention because they don't see that you had options of taking it differently, and they're always reporting backwards. So this is where you have to be planning ahead for that next year. Where's that money going to come from? So yeah, it's got to be, and then of course, like you said, these investments need to start generating income. They need to be giving dividends, giving other things, because say if you need to take 4% of your money out and you only have 2% of your portfolio paying dividends, that means you're selling 2% of your shares every month. Well, if the market's up that month, that's not bad. But if it's down for a few months, that means you're selling more shares, selling more shares, selling more shares. And then when the market comes back, those shares are gone. So yeah, that's what makes it a lot more critical.
Eric, this has been great. We've covered a lot of information here about the stages of your financial life. How can people get more information?
Yeah, well, like I said, you need to get once you get to that pre-retirement and then that payout phase. Yeah, you need to have a plan. You need to have a lot of data. You need to know what you're doing. Yeah, you don't want to just wing it and hope it works. So yeah, I think education's the best way to do it. So we put up a lot of great resources there at that digital toolbox. My book, Worry Less Wealth. Are you paying too much taxes in retirement? The Social Security decision. Will your money last as long as you do? And even a link to set up a time to talk with me, Eric Heckman. So if that's something you want to do, all you have to do is text the word toolbox to get all this great data. Again, text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And still more to come with Eric. You're listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. We'll be right back.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will the roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a great run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather the financial storm? Now may be a great time to have your retirement plan inspected. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial at 800-454-1184 now. Eric will examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial today at 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
Hi, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. He's president of Heckman Financial. He's also the author of the book Worry Less Wealth, which is something that you can get complimentary. All you have to do is just text the word toolbox to our number 800-454-1184. You can get that book and a bunch of other educational materials. Very helpful for your retirement. So, all right, Eric, we are going to bring you some retiree questions again, okay? And then I'm going to do a lightning round of questions for you to just think fast personally. And we're going to kind of get to know you a little more with some fun little questions I'm going to ask you. But first, I want to start with a retiree question. And this first one is, and I know you do get this all the time, How do I figure out how much I'll have to pay in taxes in retirement?
It's easy. It's a lot. No, just kidding.
Well, it could be. It could
So with a personalized income plan, and at least with our software, we actually do look at not just your taxes year by year, but we look at your lifetime taxes, which is a scary number, by the way, and kind of depressing. But once we look at that number and we say, okay, if we make some changes here, does that number go down, right? And if that number goes down, that's a good thing because, yeah, obviously more money in your pocket is a lot better than more money in Uncle Sam's pocket. So that's one of the things that you really need to be doing. If your financial advisor is not helping estimate and lower your lifetime taxes, I think you're really missing the boat. And I find most tax people don't do that either. So, it is a critical thing because it's one of the biggest levers. Between spending and taxes are probably the two biggest effects on your retirement. How much money you make is probably third or fourth.
Wow. Huh.
So
interesting. Yep. Okay. And in that toolbox is that blueprint to your retirement. And that's where you talk about, tax strategies in retirement. All right. Here is another question for you and kind of along what you just said. How do I know if I've saved enough for retirement? It maybe isn't top on the list, but I bet you get that question a lot.
No, that's a pretty big one. And yeah, it's kind of piggybacks on, will my money last as long as I do, right? That's kind of the two sides of the same issue. And so, yeah, it's really the only way is having a personalized income plan, one that's designed for your specific situation. So knowing first and foremost, the real number, how much you spend. So again, do that no BS budget, take those last 12 months of bank statements, divide by 12, all the withdrawals. And that's the real number of what you spent. And I probably guarantee you it's 20 to 40% higher than you think. And sometimes a little shocking. But once you know that number, then you can look at your assets and say, okay, if I'm living off that much money with inflation, taxes, everything you calculated, will it last as long as I do? If it runs out when you're 75 versus 95, well, those are obviously very different situations. And yeah, you kind of need to do a lot more planning or change some things if it's running out 75. 95, probably okay. But that's one of the critical pieces of the planning for retirement is really having and knowing what that personalized income plan is going to be, because then you know how much you can spend. And if you start spending too much, you also know you're spending too much, which you need to know way sooner than later.
Right. I love how you come alongside people. You can kind of be their guardrail and also give them that clarity, almost. Yeah.
And sometimes have to not yell at them in a nice way, but just kind of like a coach, right? Say, you're spending way too much money. So
reel it in.
Yep.
Back it up. All right. Here's another retiree question, and I think this is a good one. What are some of my options for income in retirement? Talk about that.
Yeah, well, most of us don't have a pension anymore, so the only kind of lifetime income we pretty much get is Social Security, which, we know there's issues there too. Something will always be there, but it might be reduced at some point. And so, now it's back to you, right? It's all on you. It's not, your company's not going to take care of you. Nobody else is going to take care of you. And likely your kids might not even take care of you, right? So, how are you going to do that? And so there are some great products out there, what I call foundational income type monies, where the principal is guaranteed, but it can pay you, some good withdrawals or even pay you a guaranteed income stream for life, and setting up your own kind of pension, your own kind of, Social Security, but my security or whatever you want to call it. Right. That's, I think, critical nowadays because you need to have that money. You need to have some money that is going to be there year in, year out, and without fail, without market volatility and all the other craziness stuff that you have to, go through.
Okay. And then a real quick one here, and we don't know enough about this, I don't think, all of us. What do I do with my 401k after I retire?
Yeah, well, typically you want to roll that to an IRA, individual retirement account, and kind of combine all your accounts into that format. And then from there, that's where you're going to start figuring out how much can I take out, maybe doing some tax planning. Should I be doing some Roth conversions along the way? Again, that's one of those pieces of the puzzle of how am I going to live for the rest of my life with this money. So that could be money that you move into some of these foundational assets. So, the hard part about this is it's always one answer, and it's the answer that, I guess it is a 4-letter word, called plan.
Yeah,
right? You need to have a plan. And, nobody likes that. It's a lot more fun to spend, a lot more fun to do vacation plans than it is to do a financial plan.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get that financial plan right, you can probably get a lot more vacations. So, take the time out and really take care of yourself. So, one of the things with the blueprint to worry less wealth, that's what we do is we first and foremost go through after we had that first discovery call that we do with you, the worry less wealth call. We set up another time to say, okay, well, where is your income plan? Well, let's look at where you're headed. Let's look at where your investments are. Are they positioned to give you that income? What's the tax ramifications? What's the healthcare issues along the way? And then, of course, legacy. Who gets your money when you're gone? So those are the 5 areas that everybody really needs to have a plan for. And, that's what we do when we sit down and talk with somebody. So, again, if you want to set up that time to do that, we've got a link inside our digital toolbox to do that. We also have a lot of other great information. Will my money last as long as I do? The Social Security decision. So lots of great stuff. All you have to do to get access to all that is just text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
All right. And this is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. We're going to take a few minutes now and do a little lightning round for Eric. Ask him a bunch of questions, get to know him a little more. So we're going to go 2 minutes, Eric. Okay. And I am going to start the timer now. And here's my first question. What is your biggest industry frustration?
Probably financial advisors who don't do taxes and then tax people who don't do financial stuff. Those two need to be combined.
Right. Okay. Favorite TV show of all time?
Of all time?
I guess.
That's a tougher one.
I know.
I don't know. I used to watch MASH a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I guess I could throw that one in.
MASH. Love it. Do you have a favorite color?
Just like our logo, green.
I love it. Green. And color you wear the most? Same thing?
No, oddly enough. Green's a little tougher sometimes to pull off. So
yeah. What do you wear the most?
I don't know. Probably I always have a suit on, so either black or blue.
Black. So. Oh, nice. Okay. And then how many pets do you guys have?
Just one dog. He's really old, but
what's his name?
He still moves. Jax.
Oh, what kind?
He was a rescue dog, so Lhasa Poo or something like that.
Oh, cute. Love that. What is your go-to late night snack?
Try never to do that anymore.
Ooh,
so don't try to eat after 8 or 9.
Okay.
So although sometimes I'll have frozen bananas. Those are good healthy snacks.
Get you. Okay. First job.
Well, my first illegal job was painting houses at 14 for a painting contractor. Got money under the table, but my first official job was working at what was Raging Waters, and now it's called Calibunga. But it was a water park.
Oh, fun. Okay. Favorite sports team?
Sadly, the San Jose Sharks, but we'll see if that improves.
Okay, last one. Financial advice you would hope your kids never forget.
Probably pay yourself first. You'll never end up having extra money, so you got to pay yourself first because the extra money never shows up. So if you wait till I have extra money, it ain't gonna happen. So. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's why we've set up again all these, great downloads in our digital toolbox. So, again, if you want to get access to that link and get access to some of these, they're about 10 to 15 pages. They're really great information, pretty jargon free, pretty quick reads. So all you have to do is text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Thinking about healthcare costs, long-term care expenses, and income needs in retirement? How will you afford it all? And what can you do now to help ensure your loved ones will be okay when you're gone? Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial has access to tools and strategies that can help you pursue your retirement dreams without taking on too much risk with your money. Interest rates are the highest they've been in decades, so take advantage of this seemingly once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to help protect your retirement before it's gone. Learn about the tools and features available today that could provide bonuses, potentially adding up to tens of thousands of dollars in additional income when medical needs arise. Schedule your visit with Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial today by calling 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. These opportunities won't last forever, so call now to help protect your future. 800-454-1184.
All right, we have come to the time in our show, Eric. I love this part. You give us a story about some retirees that you have helped. Today, you're going to do a wealth success story. It's always a great lesson, to see how things worked out for the best with retirees. So tell us what you have for us today, please.
Yeah, well, I guess talk about Scott and Alex here. So they've been clients for quite some time, and they'd already, before we met, had done a pretty good job of saving up a bunch. And over the years, we just kept doing different planning. We were taking advantage of that mega backdoor Roth, where you can fund extra money into your 401k after tax basis and convert it. And so that was helping them build up a ton of money now in tax-free, along with the taxable money that they'd been building up over all the years, funding 401ks and IRAs and such. And, they were getting closer to retiring. And, what happens in Silicon Valley quite often happened, unfortunately, to Scott there, and he got laid off, very common and definitely coming back around a lot more, it seems like now. And so I think kind of post-COVID, they're, a lot of these places overstaffed, and now they're starting to go, okay, who do we really need?
Yeah.
In his case, they got rid of his entire department.
Oh,
so
my.
that was kind of brutal.
Yeah.
And he'd been there for quite some time. So, now the nice thing is that, they give you, most of these companies will give you some nice exit packages. So he did get, several months of pay and all that stuff, but still it was kind of planning on going for a few more years.
Aww.
And I see this a lot where people, they're supposedly not ageism. There's supposedly not issues like that. But, if you're being interviewed by somebody in a hoodie and sandals and you've got gray hair, they kind of know you're older, right? So,
yeah.
And they're, especially if they're like, wow, you're older than my dad or something like that, not good, they're not saying that out loud, of course, right?
Right.
But mentally, they're probably saying stuff like that. And, and so that's one of the tougher things I find is a lot of people end up, getting retired before they planned on doing it. But the nice thing is when we're running the numbers for them that, they can be fine. They're kind of crazy also in the remodel of the kind of like their dream retirement home. So it wasn't necessarily the best time. But, in some kind of silver linings part, well, when you're remodeling something, there's all these decisions, all these things to make. Well, now you're going to have time to go do those,
You'll
right?
be there, yeah.
Yeah, you'll be able to go see them and watch them and stuff. So, so that's one of those things that I think people, in terms of the moral of the story, is really, if you're 60 plus in Silicon Valley, you need to be, ready in case your job changes, right? In a forcibly manner, right? Where you don't have the option. And, and I've seen it so many times, and it's very hard for people to get a job back into that same industry. Now, a lot of times you go off and do a fun job, right? Work at the Mountain Winery, have some concerts, right? I've got some people working at SAP, enjoying the concerts, the Sharks games, other things, so you could do a job for fun, something that you're interested in. There's lots of different options, but, again, you got to keep those options open, and really figure out what's the best thing for you. But definitely, if you have that planning ahead of time and you're on track and you're on track, if something bad happens, you're going to be okay. So again, if you want to get a little bit more information from us, you want to get a copy of my book, any of the quick downloads and reads we have, or even just set up a time to talk, text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com. You've been listening to Wealth Creator Radio. Next week, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning in to Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Eric Heckman, and it's been a pleasure guiding you towards a more confident and secure retirement. Remember, my responsibility is to always do what's right for you, our client. Together, we can cut out that fancy-sounding financial jargon that doesn't help and focus on what truly matters for your financial future. If you're ready to take control of your retirement planning and build a personalized income plan, contact us at 800-454-1184 and text the word toolbox to schedule a complimentary consultation. If you're looking for more resources and tools to build your retirement future, don't forget to check out that Wealth Creator Toolbox, your toolkit for a secure and confident retirement journey. Until next time, retire more and worry less with Wealth Creator Radio.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.
This radio show is a paid placement.